All right, and welcome back to another episode of HealthSparx, featuring the brightest entrepreneurs and innovations in the health and technology arena. I'm your host, Michael Walsh. Thanks for stopping by. A couple quick questions for you people. Do you love health and technology? Are you interested in cool companies getting launched? Do you want to know more about what's going on in healthcare these days? It's crazy. If any of these are yes, you're in the right spot. Do not go anywhere. Got an awesome show for you to hear today. It's my good friend Laurie Miller. She's the founder of recently launched CoLodging Club. It's a startup here in Dallas. She also, about 6 or 7 years ago now, founded Apple Care and Companion, a non-medical home care agency that is real big here in town. They've done a really, really awesome job growing their business. So really excited to welcome Laurie to the show. Wanted to get her on here to tell her story and talk about her business here that's getting going. A couple quick things. Subscribe on the website here, people. It's going great so far. We got a lot of people signing up. I'm super grateful for it. Thank you. I'll send all the episodes right to your email box, as well as tips and advice from some of the entrepreneurs on the show. Other perks that I'm starting to work on from companies across the country. Why not? Sign up for free. It's right here. Join the club. Also, Stitcher Radio and iTunes. You can join us there. Subscribe or follow. Getting good results. Thank you so much. And then last but not least, as always, Satori Tech Solutions, helping me with all of my startups. Got Health 2.0 Dallas, CareLoop, and HealthSparx. They've done an awesome job with web development, social media, SEO. If you're one of those people getting something started or thinking about getting something started, these are the folks you want to talk to. So reach out, SatoriTechSolutions.com. I'll put a link here on the episode page. So yeah, let's find out more about Laurie here. Really excited to get started. Here we go. All right, so today on HealthSparx, I've got my good friend here, Laurie Miller. Laurie is the founder of Apple Care and Companion. It's a non-medical home care agency here in Dallas, but she also just launched a really neat startup called CoLodging Club. So excited to have Laurie here on the show today to talk a little bit about what she's doing here in Dallas. A true innovator, this lady. I've learned a lot from her here over the last year and a half I've been in Dallas. So Laurie, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Michael.
So tell us a little bit about you. I mean, I've gotten to know you pretty well here over the last year and a half, but tell everybody listening a little bit about, Laurie Miller, where she grew up, school she attended, her first job. Give us the scoop.
Okay, well, I'm actually from Dallas, a native Dallasite, which there's not that many of us who are still here. Graduated from Green Hill School here in Dallas, and then went to University of Texas, and spent my 4 years there, and wanted to live in Austin like everybody else, but it's really tough to do, and I had a quick job for about 6 months, and it just didn't work out. And so I came back home because my family business needed a position filled. So I came back to Dallas and I went into the family business, which was manufacturer's representative in the giftware industry.
I don't think I knew that.
Yeah, we sold.
So you didn't start in healthcare?
China, crystal, silver, giftware kind of items. And I did that for 20-something years.
Wow.
And that company was in my family since 1910.
Okay.
So it's very, very old business, and everybody did everything. It was when I first started, it was really, I had cousins across the country in it. We had a lot of states in the Southwest and Southeast. But I managed the showroom in Dallas, the trademark. But you did everything. I mean, my dad would take out the trash, I would take out the trash. And I learned a lot in that regard, where if you wanted something done, you had to do it yourself.
Once you're an entrepreneur, you're always an entrepreneur, right?
Exactly.
You wear every hat.
You wear every hat. We did everything in-house, all the commissions, all the designing of the showroom, unpacking. I mean, if a box came in and you needed it unpacked, you went and unpacked it.
Right.
So we did everything, and I did that for a little over 20 years. My husband was also in the business with me, and he had come from a family business as well. So we had done that together for maybe 15 years, because I wasn't married at first. And then at about 2000 was great year. It had been a great business up to then. About 2003, people started buying things on the internet. Started getting real
crazy
comfortable.
How that happens.
Yes, people started getting really comfortable buying merchandise on the internet. Very, very comfortable, 2003, 2004. And also, if you remember, a lot of the department stores started gobbling each other up.
Right.
So, that was a big part of our business. We sold to a lot of stores, and here in Texas, they just started being gobbled up by each other, so it was less people to sell to. And then the internet, that was really the killer, and especially an item like dinnerware, where it's not a huge touchy-feely thing.
Right.
that you really
as
need
long
to
as you
do.
can see it, you can kind of say, okay, I can try this out.
Exactly. And then all the big box stores didn't help and that whole thing. So I started thinking in about 2004 that the two of us my husband and I didn't need to be in the same business. And I started investigating different opportunities. I had graduated with a marketing degree from the business school at Texas.
Okay.
But I had done this all my life. So it was really interesting. I had a lot of different skills from doing everything, but I had one employer, basically, who was my father.
Yep.
So that's kind of an interesting situation, not knowing, and I knew I didn't really want to work for anybody else. So I set out to try to find what I wanted to do. At that same time, if you remember, in about 2005, all the beginning talk about people living longer, living healthier, wanting to stay home, all that talk really was starting then. Every time I opened the paper, I would see, people want to age in place and living longer, and that whole entire thing. Meanwhile, my grandparents in Memphis had lived alone with help, just non-licensed help. They didn't really have a lot of licensing back then, but just ladies from the church just would come over. They had round-the-clock care, and it really was a wonderful thing. So my aunt didn't have to, she could be a daughter. She didn't have to caregive for them, hands-on. And my gramps lived to be 96, and my grandmother lived to be 100.
Wow.
In their own apartment the whole time.
Just with a little bit of extra help.
With a little bit of extra help. And if one had to go into the hospital, the other one could stay home because
Sure.
they had the caregiver there. And I kind of putting it all together, looking at different opportunities. Also, my mother had retired as a social worker from the state of Texas, but kept up her certification, not knowing why. But anyway, all the kind of confluence came together, and I researched whether to do a franchise or I finally decided on this non-medical industry, that it just made a lot of sense to me. I don't have a nursing background, and you don't need it because we don't do any kind of medical needs at all. So I finally decided to go with a membership opportunity, not a franchise, because
Sure.
I didn't feel in this industry, there's many, many successful franchises, but I didn't feel that's what would work for me. I can't put me in a mold.
Yeah, and I mean, just to give people a little bit of context here in terms of what she means by franchises, there's agencies and companies all over the country that, they start at that ground level, but then people around the country, around the state, wherever you might be, say, okay, this seems like a great model. I want to also start my own of this model. We'll call it Caregiver ABC Company or whatever, ABC Corp. And so, yeah, just like a McDonald's, you buy into the franchise and you can start your own and sort of just run with it. So that's kind of what we're referring to with the franchise model.
And I didn't, and they're very successful. There's quite a few that are very successful.
Sure.
But you do toe the company line, and that just wasn't what I really was interested in.
You wanted to build it from scratch by yourself. It wanted to be yours.
Yes and no. I wanted it to be mine. I wanted to make all the decisions, but I didn't necessarily want to reinvent the wheel.
Sure.
So there was another opportunity called the membership model. And that's the way I went. There's a company called Companion Connection Senior Care, and you get all the benefits of a franchise. He has maybe 100 companies across the country, and he actually started at a college 25 years ago. He invented the wheel for him, but he packaged everything he learned over the past 20 years. And when I started in 2006, it was still on, he sent out notebooks and discs, so it wasn't quite as
3.5-inch floppies.
Exactly. It was a little bit different, so we printed a lot of stuff out, but it was all in Word, so we could change everything. It was his policies and procedures, but you tailor it to what you want.
Right.
Which was really good because Texas had certain requirements and different standards, and so that's how I went. I stopped working in the family business about the beginning of 2006, or middle of 2006. I went for training in the summer of 2006. Got my licensing here in Texas, and then really started in October of 2006.
So, give us a quick, if you had to look back at the last now 6 years of Apple Care and Companion, what has been Apple Care and Companion? And again, just for people listening, this has been a phenomenal success here locally. Laurie she's an all-star in this area. Her company is really known for their quality. What's something that you really kind of have learned through the process of getting Apple Care and Companion going and thriving to a point of how you've now arrived at this issue of CoLodging Club? Because there had to have been something that you picked up along the way.
Right. Well, in the very beginning, I did everything myself. It was really me and my mother, and my mom was more of a kind of a figurehead because she had the social work degree. But you do everything yourself in the beginning, and very frugal, but you just do it all the right way. And if you can't do something right, then you tell someone. So a lot of times in the beginning, if I didn't have that right caregiver for that specific client need, I would say we can't staff it and give them another name of someone who I trusted.
Sure.
So rather than try to do everything, sometimes you had to say no. So we grew that way,
Which is really tough.
Which
too.
is really hard,
especially when you're an entrepreneur. You got to start up and you have to turn business down sometimes.
Yeah, and that was really hard, but that was a really important lesson. And sometimes I've also learned along the way that it's okay to fire a client here and there. That if you're never going to make someone happy for whatever reason, and usually it's them and not you. And I've only done that, I think it's 2 times, maybe 3, that we knew it was never going to work out, and it was just one of those things. And that's okay, that sometimes you do your best and it's never going to please somebody.
Sure.
And that's okay. And to learn that, not to get overwhelmed and upset.
It can happen.
And then to really make sure as you grow and you have to let go, which was a very, very hard thing because I was doing everything, that you keep your imprint on it, even if someone else is doing it. You make sure your message and what you believe in is still coming across, even if it's not you doing it. And that's a hard thing as you grow to kind of keep your hand in it. But you just have to be focused on your mission and what you want your company to represent.
All right, so you've spent here, your company, the AppleCare has now grown. It's very, again, successful here in the Dallas area. But somewhere along the way here, there had to have been a moment where you're like, there's an issue here that sort of led to the evolution of this idea that's now Colo Club. Can you remember what that moment was? Like where you were?
No, I can't remember exactly where I was. It was more of a dawning of something that was going on. And a lot of it was a slow progression of, I realized we were doing a lot of our caring, a lot of our business in facilities. 30% of our business is in assisted living and senior or skilled facilities and even hospitals.
Sure.
And then a big chunk of our business is at home, obviously, but a lot of companionship stuff, just, making meals, taking trash out, being someone's friend. And it kind of dawned on me that a neighbor can do a lot of the stuff that we do, but people aren't friendly with their neighbors. And that sense of community has really changed a lot.
Sure.
And it's not just over the, 6 or 7 years I've had AppleCare. It's been over the last 20-something years. Everyone, especially in Dallas, you pull in your garage, you don't see anybody in the alley, you pull in your garage, you never see your neighbor. And that's just kind of hit me recently, maybe about 8-9 months ago, and that's when I was starting to think about the CoLodging Club. Also, this is kind of a side, it's more my personal life. My daughter was going to college, and it was her sophomore year in college. And she had a friend, an issue with a friend who wasn't at her college. He had an accident and he passed away.
Right.
And here she is, in St. Louis, I'm in Dallas, and I couldn't put my arms around her and hug her and help her. But her roommates did. Her suite mates in her college dorm just took care of her probably better than I could have. It was really something amazing. And the teachers and her advisors just really were incredible. She came home for the funeral and went back, and they just were fantastic. It was something I couldn't even imagine. But it dawned on me that because of these friends, and she had only known him a year because she was a sophomore, they just really took care of her, and they would see her, and if she was sad, when she was going to bed or whatever, her roommate would just make sure. And I realized how important those connections are. And when she would come home from college, the best times we had together would be early in the morning or late at night. Just kind of those,
When it's just you guys.
Just us around the kitchen table, not the big fancy dinner, not a big party. Just those moments were so special. And I felt, and then if you take it to my clients, they were missing those moments. A lot of people are alone. There's no one there to say, have a great day. How are you doing?
So let's start there then, because that's the perfect sort of transition point to what this is. So again, Laurie is just launching a new concept now called CoLodging Club. The website just went live here, so I'll put a link here on the episode page. So what is this concept of CoLodging Club now? Keeping those points in mind of community and that friendship bond between two people. Translate it now over into what we've been talking about. So what is this thing?
Okay, well, this concept is certainly not new. It's sharing your space with someone. It's having a housemate, and it's great for the person who has the home and maybe it's too big for them, whether they're alone for whatever reason, and then take somebody else who either has a house and doesn't want to keep it, or is in an apartment, or whatever their reason is, just moved to town, whatever.
Sure.
But putting them together, and they can share that space. It's eco-friendly. Obviously, you're lowering your footprint, but it's more important. The financial benefit's huge, and that's very, very obvious. But the companionship and the camaraderie that can develop is hugely important for people's mental health, because isolation has been proven to be detrimental mentally and physically.
Totally. I mean, I can't imagine being, especially, we're talking specifically over like a certain age here, right? We're talking like, what, 50, 55 plus we're gearing this towards?
That's the demographic that I'm interested in, because I have a lot of friends, and I'm going to be 50 soon. It's no secret. But a lot of my friends whose kids are going off to college, and for whatever reason, I don't know what it is, but they're finding themselves getting divorced. Whether it's after 20-something years of marriage, either one just is ready to move on. So I'm having a lot of friends getting divorced. I even have some friends who've lost spouses, whether it's cancer or heart attack or whatever it is.
Right, and they want to meet. They want to meet people.
Yeah, they don't want to be alone. They're
Sure.
at a stage in their life, whether you want to just share life's ups and downs with somebody, whether it's for 6 months or a year until you can figure out what to do. A lot of people don't want to make a life change. Kids going off to college, they're alone. They don't need to make another change. That's huge. So whether it's just a short-term kind of let me figure this out and I like this or I don't, but it gets you over that hump.
So how does this model work then? Okay, so it's like, okay, I'm a 52-year-old guy. I just maybe I'm living by myself. I'd love to maybe find people to live with, maybe one or two people even. I've got this
Right.
big house. How does CoLodging Club help me? What's the model here? How does this work?
Well, rather than do an online profile matching thing, which I really don't believe in, because so many people don't tell the truth on that. And I've learned also, to back up, I've learned a lot of interacting with people from the caregiver and client placement. You might think somebody's perfect, but when they get in with that human interaction, it's not going to work.
Sure.
For whatever reason. So what we've decided to do, the model is a membership model.
Okay.
So people will join as a member, and then we will hold member-only events so people can actually mix and mingle. We'll facilitate them and do icebreakers and do fun things, so it's not awkward. It's very easy. No worry about small talk. And then people can really interact and see if they're going to like somebody. I laugh and I think if you follow Seinfeld at all, some of those episodes where people can't stand people because they laugh funny.
Yeah.
Or whatever it is.
You need to get that, that personal touch
Yeah.
to it. You can't tell that from, across a profile screen.
And that's important to know. You're talking about living with someone, and to find out why, the goals of why people want to live with someone. Do they want a new best friend? And maybe you just would like to share a meal on Sunday.
It's like dating.
It is.
In some ways, right? That's why you go and you have first dates, right? To figure out, can you stand this person?
Exactly. And there's different reasons for people living together. Some is just strictly financial, and they really don't want a relationship, and they just want someone who's going to be there, safe, whatever, and have this place to be. Or someone may love to cook and doesn't want to cook for one, and would really love to cook for more, and would like meals at night with somebody.
Okay, so people join as members. They start coming to these events. At what point then, once they find that housemate, do they remain a member?
The original membership is 3 months, and they can stay longer if they want at an additional fee.
Sure.
But and we'll have at least weekly meetings. So if someone went every week, that's 12 meetings, plus they can, after a little while, they could always meet outside.
Sure,
The
absolutely.
group. And that should be enough time. If not, if they felt they still didn't find someone, it'll be all timing, whoever's a member at that time. If for whatever reason it didn't work out, they could always jump back in the pool for free for that first year. And if they ever wanted to join again, they could at a very discounted rate.
All right, so obviously we're launching this locally here first in
Right.
Dallas. So, what's the thought about growing this type of model outside the city limits here of DFW?
Absolutely, I definitely want to do that. I'll start here and branch out locally in Texas, and then I absolutely want to make it national.
Is the thought maybe to put a lead person in each city or something like that
Exactly.
to lead these events and organize these events?
Exactly. It has to have that human touch. It's real important. The personality of that person is going to be real important to get people to mix and mingle and make it comfortable.
Yeah, you got to be a networker.
Exactly. And the other thing we have, and it's on the website, and we would have this in every place, are resources to help people.
Sure.
Whether it's helping with background checks, sending people that way, or helping with financial situations. If all of a sudden you're receiving rental income, how do you account for that? attorneys to help write up leases and agreements.
Sure.
And then just household professional organizers and junk haulers. You got to clean up that room for somebody, and garage door fixers and all kinds of household things just to help make this process easy for people.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like a terrific thing. I mean, I guess it'll be interesting to see kind of how the first couple meetings go for you here and just sort of what the response is. I mean, because you could easily start to see some people like, show up and go, I don't know if these people are like the kind of people I want to be with. But then on the other hand, too, it could just be like people show up and they have so much fun together and they learn so much about one another that like they can't help but just. So it's going to be interesting to see how this all comes together, right? Because, I have not, and people out there listening, you come back and tell me in the comments if you've heard something like this, but I've never heard of a model tried this way with a membership and you're coming to these events. And because, again, all the online dating now is just like you said, it's a profile-to-profile interaction, one-on-one, completely just personal. But you're right. You don't know if the person on the other end is just completely BSing you either. So
exactly, and
this is new to me.
Well, it's interesting. As I've been talking to some people, especially people over 50, and they'll look at me and they'll go, I remember my grandmother had a boarder when we were growing up, and we used to call her Aunt Sally. And everybody, it seems, everybody I've talked to had a family member who lived alone. And it all seems to be an older woman, and they had a boarder like all their life. They just remember they would even come to family events, but that allowed that their grandmother or their aunt to stay home in their place because they had someone. It was before the time when you had the button, the emergency response system. Well, you had a live person who was living there. So that's interesting. And even before that, if you can remember, well, you don't remember, but in history, extended families lived together. In the 1900s, you lived in the one house. It was a family house, your brothers and sisters.
And there's many cultures that still do that, right? Like,
and
we're in Texas. You go, a couple hundred miles south of here. That's still how it works.
Exactly. And there's no need for daycare, no need for senior care. You do that. So about somewhere in the that kind of slowed down, I guess, and maybe in the 30s and 40s and 50s, time of war and all that kind of stuff, people did have borders, and they did kind of get back together a little bit. And then in the 70s, a concept was started called shared housing, and that was a nonprofit concept, and that was more demographic driven, whether it was domestic abuse victims who may be timed out of shelters, nonviolent criminals who got out of jail but couldn't get apartment because of their background,
right? And
homelessness was a big issue. So they started this nonprofit shared housing, and it worked for quite some time. And in about the 90s, it started going back downhill because of funding. It was a lot of funding, and then the problem with it is most funding, grants and that kind of stuff, is for a single demographic. Well, shared housing doesn't work on a single demographic. You have to, two people who are both don't have a home, if they're about to be homeless, isn't going to work because you need the person with the home.
Absolutely.
So the shared housing concept is a wonderful one. The concept is great. Someone who's about to lose their home financially, and then you get someone in there who can't. It works great. But the problems are that demographic. So what I'm doing is the same idea, but it's just in a different demographic.
Yeah, and this is such a hot trend right now. People think about it. Like all of the different concepts coming out in all different sorts of industries with that whole idea of sharing, like Airbnb. Think about it. Like
exactly.
you own your house, you can't be here for a week, so why should it sit there empty? Like monetize it. Or same thing with cars or, boats,
right.
Whatever it might be. Like there's no reason why you couldn't pull the same thing off with, the 50 plus demographic that they want to be together. They want to see that
right.
utilization rise. Why not try it? Why not see what happens?
And it's been proven on the financial, like I said, those benefits are obvious.
Sure.
But the health benefits are huge as well. And everyone hears about neuroplasticity and working your brain. Well, the worst thing you could do for your brain is stay in a rut. That's the worst thing. So if you had a roommate, you had a housemate, they like different music, maybe they like different foods, they're introducing you to different things, which is the best thing for your brain.
Right.
So for health benefits, it's wonderful. And we talked about isolation. So it's an exciting concept.
I love it. It's really exciting. It's a perfect illustration of that intersection of health and technology. Like, it's not so technology driven because, again, we're introducing this personal element to it. But there is a bit of technology involved with at least getting some of these people to read about it,
right.
Sign up. So we're taking that piece of it And it's not health in the sense that we're performing surgery or medicine or something, but it is mental health. It is some of these other aspects, social health, that we're trying to work on. So it's a really interesting blend.
Exactly.
In terms of a concept. So taking a step back now, just sort of getting to a point where we can wrap up, I want to come back to you. As you've gone through the last 6-7 years or so with now Apple Care and Companion and CoLodging Club, you look at all of it, you think, probably first, wow, what a ride, right? But if you had to look back and sort of pick out that one thing that you're like, I wish I could maybe take that one back, or just one of those aha moments that you really remember, what would it be, and kind of what advice would you give back to people listening that came from it?
Well, I think the number one thing is it's okay to fail, that you learn so much from failing, and if you're afraid to fail, you'll never make it. As one of the best, I never read a lot of parenting books. The only one I read, and this is the greatest book, and I'll just tell you the title, and that's all you need to know, and it's called The Blessings of a Skinned Knee. That it's okay for your child to fall, and they have to fall so they can pick themselves up. And
cool title.
That's all you need to know. I didn't have to read the whole book. I just read the title. But that you want your not that you want your child to fail, but you want them to learn life's lessons. So in business, it's the same thing. I mean, you can't think you're going to be 100% all the time and be perfect. That you can fail, and that's okay, and you just learn from it as long as you learn from it. And if you have an idea and you're passionate about it, that you have to go for it, or you'll second guess yourself. The whole co-lodging thing, I had been thinking about it for a year.
I remember we sat and had lunch and we talked about it a little bit.
And I finally kind of started writing things down and fleshing it out, and and I hadn't made that leap yet to really decide to do it. And every time I read the paper, every single morning, I was freaked out that I was going to open it up and there it was going to be. And I thought, you know what, I'm just going to do it. Because it was more stressful not doing it and looking in the paper, fearful.
That is spoken like a true entrepreneur right there. She's afraid that if I don't do it, someone else is going to do it.
Yeah, so I just had to go for it, and I figured I'll lose time and money, and that's it. But at least I felt comfortable that I was going after what I wanted to do.
Well, excellent advice. And again, it doesn't matter how many times somebody hears that whole concept of don't be afraid to fail. I mean, it's so true, and it's not meant to sound cliche at all. Like, we're being serious. Don't be afraid to screw up. Like, we would both probably sit here and tell somebody listening, I screw up every day.
Right.
I screw up every day. And you know what? I look forward to screwing up, because that means I'm going to fix it and learn from it.
You're going to grow, and absolutely, that's the most important.
Well, this has been, again, we've got to know each other pretty well, but I've learned some things here about how this all came to be. So thank you so much. I'm super excited to see this concept come to life. And I think even as we're recording the show, Laurie's first event for CoLo Club is actually tonight. It's kind of an intro here in Dallas to get people sort of in the know about what this is going to be. So check out the website and chat with Laurie a little bit about what she's doing. We'd love to hear the feedback. We'd love to hear some of the comments about maybe some of your experiences out there that you've dealt with this. Maybe you've dealt with it. Maybe you've had a parent or a grandparent deal with it. But the concept is really cool, and we're excited to see it come to life. So thank you so much for being part of the show.
Thanks, Michael. I really appreciate it.
All right, and that is it from me and Laurie. Laurie was a little bit nervous after the episode. She told me she didn't think her voice sounded very good. So be sure to send her a note and tell her how great she sounded on when she's all mic'd up. I thought it was really good. I thought she did a good job. So high five, Laurie. Nice work. Check out her concept. It sounds really cool. CoLodgingClub.com. I'll put a link here on the episode page. A couple quick things before we sign off. Looking for guests, everybody. If you want to be a guest on the show, right here on the website, click to be a guest, fill out the form. It comes straight to me. Would love to set something up with you. It doesn't matter what it is. If you think it might fall into a category where it's something innovative or interesting going on in the health and technology arena, bring it on, people. I'd love to have you on and share the story. So don't be shy. And then last but not least, of course, again, just subscribe to the website here. I'll send you all the content. Check it out on iTunes and Stitcher Radio. Would be very, very appreciative. So if nothing else, another great show. Had a lot of fun. Very much looking forward to next week's episode. So until then, I'm your host, Michael Walsh. We'll talk to you soon.